Welcome back to a brand new episode of Your Wealth and Beyond. And today we have a special guest in the Dream Plan Retire studio, longtime friend and associate over the years, Cary Ballou, founder of Shanti Sound. Welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Thank you so much. I'm great, and I'm really, really happy to be here.
We're excited to have you. And so, Cary, as you know, the podcast is about helping entrepreneurs, business owners, not just handle growing their business, but also finding purpose. And with being a business owner, as you know, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of things you faced, we all face. So today I'm really excited to dive deep into some of the things you've been doing over the last decade, but really the last few years in finding that inner peace and helping yourself as well as others, whether business owner or not, really utilizing some of the spiritual side of things, including sound, and how we can help bring that to bring purpose and to bring some of the chaos that's out there and to bring some ease into our lives. That sound fun?
Sure. Absolutely. Yes.
So I know a lot of the viewers and the listeners may not know much about sound baths and the spiritual side of it. So we're going to dig into a lot of that today. But your story is unique. You know, like a lot of us, you were running and going, and you had some high stressful corporate jobs. Let's talk about your journey. So what was that like over the last, 20 plus years where you were, in the world doing what you thought you should be doing, but maybe not feeling that it was the right path?
It is so true what you just said, that I, like so many people, we're doing what we thought we should be doing. There's a program that we grew up with of education, college. You're out there to find the job in which you will excel. I was in a whole different range of companies and experiences, so I never really had one linear path. I worked for a marketing company right out of college, and that lasted for 11 years. And then I made the jump to move out here to Arizona, and I didn't know anybody. I did not have a job when I moved out here. I knew my sister, and we got a place together, and I started over out here and found, of course, myself in high-pressure sales jobs, and which eventually led me to where we used to work together. And from that experience that was a tremendous amount of pressure. We had clients coming in every day, sell product, sell product, sell product. You're accountable in these meetings. So I feel like there's just a tremendous amount of stress that builds up and life piles up on you over time because we get used to that stress response being our normal. And I never had any mindfulness practices before. So over time, I did not know how to manage the stress. And really didn't know how to meditate. I think I was one of those people who didn't know anything about meditation, didn't know if I could meditate. So I was exercising, was doing yoga, I was drinking a lot,
Just sustaining.
Just sustaining. I was not happy, really, in most of the jobs that I had. It was all about survival. And
you put the persona on, though, that, hey, this is great.
Yeah.
Everyone outside looks at you and like, hey, great job.
Right.
Looks successful. Seems happy.
We have an external facade or role that we create because we feel like we're supposed to do that, But inside is a very, very different story, which affects your relationships, which affects your mental health. And so we have coping mechanisms, But yeah, I think that externally, a lot of people look a whole lot happier and fulfilled than they really are inside.
So was there a turning point? Was there, I wouldn't want to say a rock bottom, but you kind of had this feeling, this isn't the path I'm on, the hamster wheel, that led you to determining in your mind that I've got to make a change?
Well, the last few years of my corporate life were in construction. That was after 2008, and we had, that serious market crash, and all marketing companies basically went away. So after years in primarily advertising. And then the short stint that I worked with you, I found myself having to switch gears and get into what I would consider to be the most stressful years of my career that I've ever been in my life, because construction is really hardcore. It never stops. It never sleeps. I was managing projects. I was also doing a lot of business development, and that comes down to many late nights, many early mornings, lots of golf tournaments, lots of dinners that run late into the night. And then you got to go and balance your responsibilities at the office with all of those external entertainment things that you got to do. And so that was when I was really headed towards burnout. That was just overextending myself. And talk about, that persona that we've created over the years of kind of happy and everything looks good from the outside. When you add having to entertain people that really, you don't know these people very well, but you're putting on a total show to make them your friend, to convince them that they should work with you versus another competitor. So that's phony, I felt like a phony a lot of times. I didn't feel authentic at all. I was certainly getting further and further away from who I was as a person. And quite frankly, I didn't even know who I really was as a person, because we identify so much with our success that, and there's no work-life balance there after a while, after all of those years of grinding. It's just rinse, repeat. You get up every day and you keep going, because millions and millions of dollars are at stake.
Yeah, it's very weighty.
Yeah.
Sure, when you're in the car going to that next event, you're just dreading what you're going to have to do. And then you do it and you just get on stage and you do what you got to do. But not fulfilling.
Not at all. And so things got less and less and less fulfilling as time went on in that career. And then, of course, you've got your personal life. And there's things going on. And, my mother was very sick, and she was losing her battle with her illness. And I was flying back and forth across the country every chance I could get to see her. We have relationships, personal relationships that we're trying to maintain in all of that. And everything was just getting overwhelming. And so I took a couple of days and I went out to LA, and I reconnected with an old friend of mine who I knew growing up, like a childhood friend. And she had been through a long health journey of physical, mental, emotional things. And we were talking about, what did you do to get healthy again? I mean, you look great. You seem so happy. And she said, have you ever tried a sound bath before? Have you ever heard of that? And I said, no, but really, I am willing to try anything. Candidly, I had been to therapy on and off over the years. I had taken different antidepressants. I drank too much. I took pills to sleep sometimes. And so, when you look at all of those things, it's really easy to ignore those things, but they're still there, and they're coping mechanisms. They're not long-term solutions. So anyway, that just kind of stuck in the back of my mind, because she had used that and said it was a critical part of returning to health and this balance that she now had, and this emotional freedom that she now had. So anyway, I came back here and I actually sought one out, and I found this studio that did them. But sometimes they don't open until shortly before the sessions begin. So the date that I went by there, they were closed. And so I thought, all right, well, I'll revisit that later. I'll go back, or I'll call them or something. And then, just life gets busy again. And a few weeks went by, and I saw this class called Gong Meditation one day on my yoga schedule. And I'm like, that's got to be it. I'm going to sign up for that class. I'm going to go see what this is all about. So it never really left my mind. It was just, things got in the way until that one day that I saw that class. So I signed up for it. And I went, and I didn't know what to expect. And you lie on the floor, and they have blankets and stuff. And it was a yoga studio. So there's these bolster pillows that you put under your head and your legs. And so I just got comfortable on the floor. And an hour later, I was sitting there on the floor, just trying to make sense of what had just happened, because everything that had been following me around, the stress and the anxiousness and the racing thoughts and the what about tomorrow? It's Monday, and you start psyching yourself out about what's going to happen on Monday. Maybe there's a sales meeting. Maybe you're worried about whatever's going to happen, starting your new business week off. And everything that had been on my mind was just gone. It had all just shut off. And I had seen this purple swirling light. And I had left the room at moments during that hour. And where'd that hour even go? And I was absolutely blown away. I'm like, what in the heck just happened?
And when you've done yoga over the years, you do feel good walking out of there, but nothing in the same ballpark?
No.
How you felt at first?
No, the last 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes of a yoga class is generally Shavasana. Yeah. And that's when you go into your short bit of meditation. But again, I had no experience with that. I didn't ever study meditation or look into it. So yes, that was the relaxing point after you are soaked from head to toe and you've been, really working in that moving meditation for the last hour or hour and a half. But no, nothing like this. Nothing like this. I hadn't even ever experienced any sound healing instruments, which are now pretty common after a lot of yoga classes. And that's where a lot of people get their intro into it. But I had never even experienced that before. And this was a room full of gongs and different bowls. And I just couldn't believe it. I'll just go back to that. I mean, that was truly the before and after moment for me. So I would say that was the transformational experience that started the shift down a brand new path.
And that the purple light that you saw, that you still see, that, I've done the class and you do feel that out of body. And what is that? What can you tell the listeners? What is that?
Well, each of the different chakras, and that's a whole different path of conversation, which a lot of people might not be familiar with. And I certainly wasn't familiar with before I started these studies. Each of the chakras represents a different energy center in the body, and they correspond to the octave scale, C through B, just like on a piano. And they also correspond to the rainbow of colors. So the crown chakra at the top of the head here represents purple. The Roy G. Biv, the rainbows like red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Well, violet or purple is the crown chakra. And I consistently see it still to this day. And it's been about 8 years since then. And I feel like that is an indication to me, now that I know, that I was opening up my connection to spirit. That we pray, we hope, we pray, we ask for guidance. But sometimes things don't change because the mindset hasn't changed. We're just, begging for answers. And I feel like that purple light is crown chakra activation, where I am connecting to my higher power, my higher self.
So this turning point then, get all the feelings, the weight of the world, that moment is gone. Mm-hmm. The reality starts hitting at some point. But at this point, then you realize, is it like right away you realize I need to make a shift?
What happened after I left that room is that I felt a sense of calm and peace for the rest of the day. I mean, it maintained and continued for the rest of the day. I felt like 1,000,000 pounds had been lifted off of me. And that is the same afternoon that I realized that I had been under such a state of chronic stress for so long, that it had become my normal for so long, that I had forgotten what it was like to feel that calm and that peaceful for that long amount of time.
It almost brings you back to when we didn't have responsibility, when we're young growing up, when the world is out there and it could be our oyster and we don't know what the next day is going to bring, but we don't have the stress that comes with.
It was presence.
Mm-hmm.
We live in the past and in the future all the time. That old saying that's all we have is today, this present moment, and the present moment is a gift, and that's why it's called a present. And that's what mindfulness is, once again, Buddhism, mindfulness, that whole meditation world. I mean, that's what that practice is staying in the present moment, not straying back into the what could I have done better, or what did I do wrong in the past, and what am I going to do tomorrow about this, that, or the other. I was in the present moment, and that's where serenity truly lies. So your question was, when did the shift happen? Well, I knew that I had finally found something that was different and had made such a remarkable, fast result in 60 minutes that I was going to continue doing this. I couldn't wait to go back. And I started going. So that was the only class that I knew of at the time. And it was for a limited time. It was a visiting person that was working on opening her own sound studio. But for the moment anyway, that was every Sunday at 2:00. And I went every single Sunday at 2:00. And when the class wasn't on the schedule or it got canceled, I was upset about it. So it was something that became a part of my life. I would ask her after class, I said, "Are you going to be teaching this?" I signed up for a seminar that she hosted. She had been trained at the Globe Sound Healing Institute in San Francisco. As I mentioned, she was in the midst of moving and building out her own space, so she wasn't teaching.
Yeah.
And so one day, in the meantime, life goes on. I still have work stress. I still have relationship stress.
That's what you say. You're living a parallel universe of this is where I want to dip my toes out, but I still have reality.
I still have reality. I still have my job responsibilities. And some pretty profound personal turn of events happened in my life and in the relationship that I was in at the time. And he and I both had to take a major step back from the industry. For mental and physical health reasons. There were a number of illness that he experienced that we needed to turn our immediate attention to. So anyway, when you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And it became very, very important for us to both take a major step back and focus on him getting well. And of course, me too. I wasn't physically ill. I didn't have some health crisis that I was going through, but this was a moment that I could turn my attention toward my own needs. And so I found myself out of a job. I found myself forcibly removed from the construction industry all of a sudden. And I'd been hanging on to it because it was a big part of my identity and, it was my income. And it was, it's what you do. It's what you get up and do every day, no matter how unhappy you are. But I was bounced out of the industry one day. And I'm like, wow, I've got time on my hands. And so I almost immediately went online and I found this online program and to learn all about sound healing. It's called Sound Healing Academy International. It's based out of England and it had been around for 20 years. And I signed up and I enrolled in the online classes, and it's built for a part-time learning experience because people do have other jobs. But at that time, I had no other job and I couldn't go back to work. And so I just dove right in and I learned about quantum physics. I learned about what an ancient, powerful practice that this is and how the use of sound has been a form of medicine going back thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And I was fascinated. I couldn't get enough of it. And I went through level 1 and level 2 training in less than a year. And it should usually, take a lot longer than that. But I was actively involved in training and doing my lessons and reading other resources that they recommended. I got into the medical research part of it because, having been somebody that made sales presentations and when you're in your environment working, I mean, you need to be credible. You need to know what you're talking about. You need to know your product, sell your product, and be very well versed in it. So, so I became really focused on knowing everything, or I'll never know everything about it, but being able to speak intelligently about it, and also starting to practice. And because that's a big part of it is actual practice sessions, like rounding up my friends and saying, okay, and I would also take friends to these classes and say, what did you experience, and we'd kind of share feedback. And then I started collecting instruments, and I started learning about the chakras, and I started learning about the whole science, art, and alchemy of this practice. And then I started, doing it in my bedroom, and I'd have my sister come over, or I'd have, I go to people's houses, and I'd set up, and I would do these experiences for them. And as I, number one, was using this practice for myself to get better, and noticed this shift in my mental state, I also was getting feedback from the people that I was practicing on, saying, wow, you're really good at this, which kind of took me by surprise.
And when you were getting your network, your close friends and people that care about you, but maybe have never even thought in a million years they'd be in a sound bath, was it hard? Were some looking at you like, we don't know you anymore, and you had to stay true to, this is my past? Yeah. And we're like, what's gotten into Cary? She's hokey now. She's moving to Sedona. Was that? But,
I didn't move to Sedona.
Yeah, but that was, because I can just, now it's become much more commonplace even in the last 5 years. But that had to have been something for you to say, okay, I'm not going to let these people direct where my calling is.
Yeah. Yes, it became a calling. We could talk about this for so much longer than the time that we have here today. But as I dove into this practice more and started embracing meditation and playing the instruments, then all of these remarkable things started to happen. I would join these group sound healings online. Now, when I graduated, just a few months after that was March of 2020. So I basically graduated from my program at the end of 2019, and then 2020 happened. So I was just about to get out and start doing this, and working with a local hotel, doing some sessions there, and getting the word out and engaging people with this more. So anyway, then we all got rushed back into our homes, and the world kind of stopped. And so I would do these group meditations, and I would find and connect with people online that were involved in other, not just sound, but in energy work of different kinds. And so the long story short is that I started having kind of a psychic emergence. I started having these experiences that were so spiritual and so much opening my mind to this whole different side of our existence that I simply had not been taught or grown up with in school or in church or in the society that I grew up in around me. So I was changing as a person, basically, in the way in which I viewed the world. So yeah, was I doing something brand new that most people didn't know about? Yes, I was, but at the same time, I was going through this massive mindset shift and spiritual awakening at the same time. And that is what sound will do for so many people, which they never taught. I could have never thought or known about this when I was going through my training, exactly what was going to happen to me while going through all of this. But it started a spiritual awakening and heightened and sharpened my intuition, and I could start to kind of predict things that would happen sometimes. And but that is what happens when all of the vibrations in the mind start realigning and the new neural pathways open up.
With COVID, were you able to do these classes via Zoom? And it's probably not as beneficial as being in the room with you.
Okay, so one time, I would do some Facebook Lives and some Instagram Lives, because obviously we are in a situation here where, people are really struggling I mean, you can't leave your house. You can't go to work. The kids are home. I can't see my parents, or one of us is sick. And I mean, I had a friend whose daughter like spent a few weeks in the basement because the elderly parents had just moved into the house, and everybody was terrified that if one person had it, then it was going to go through the household, and then there was going to be death, and the whole mental thing that all of us were going through at the time was really unprecedented. Never been through anything like that. So anyway, I would set up my instruments in the bedroom, and I would set up my phone, and I would just go live, and I'd say, all right, everybody, find a place that you can lie down. And, I'd make some announcements before that, but I'd just go on Facebook Live and Instagram Live, and I would play my instruments. And that's actually how I met some of these people that I met online. I mean, a lot of these relationships that I had with people that did Kundalini activation and distance Reiki healing, they were Instagram friends from LA and different places that I had never known them before. But there was the common thread, happening that were bringing us all together, which is no coincidence. It's not an accident.
Yeah.
So, and then I would get all this extraordinary feedback afterwards, because it was actually like, number one, I can do something for an hour and not be, staring at the ceiling or, trying not to have an argument with somebody else in the house because we're all trapped in here together. But it was making an impact on them afterwards. They were more relaxed. I was getting all these great messages like, wow, that was incredible. What was that? And so, yeah, I did that, until, luckily we were in Arizona, so we were able to get back to work a lot sooner. And I went out and got back into the public as soon as I could. But yeah, that was how a lot of people got interested in it and exposed to it, that were from LA to Richmond, Virginia, where I grew up.
Yeah, we think about where you were a few years before that, and if it had happened at that time without having this as your ability to refocus and to energize, you would have been just like everybody else. That fight or flight, it would have just probably continued doing the drinking and the pill, all the things that people did. Mm-hmm. So at this point, then, this is your calling. You've never really been a business owner. You've always, worked for these companies and different jobs, but you've always been successful helping other companies grow. So at this point, this is where you need to be. Is this when you start thinking in terms of, I'm going to become a business owner? Sorry.
Yeah. And years before that, I would have never imagined that I could own my own business. And I used to turn that idea over in my mind from time to time. I'm like, what would I even do? I mean, what is my mission here? What am I supposed to be doing? And how can I serve the public in some kind of way? Those are questions that I used to have, but I didn't have the answers to. And when I realized that this was in fact my mission, that this was in fact why I'm here having this earth experience, then in addition to working in, I went to people's homes. I would have rented a space in Scottsdale, and I rented there, and I was there every Wednesday night. And then I did a little bit of events at Mountain Shadows, where I still work occasionally now. But yeah, I'm like, can I actually do this as a business? I mean, is this sustainable? And the answer just kept being, keep going. And so, yeah, I started building. I had, since that time, my mother had in fact passed away, and I'm like, how am I going to do this? And so I just started spreading the word. I got a MindBody account back in 2020. MindBody would sell anybody their software, and I thought, well, first of all, I have to build an email list. I have to start, having a way that people can sign up for these classes. Because if I'm going to rent space, I'm not just going to text people. And, some people do that. But structurally, coming from helping other companies be successful, I knew that there had to be some structure to this. So I got a sign up system so I could start tracking and making the sign up available to people. I used a lot of social media to do it. But, I started small. I mean, I rented a space from a local event space, and I consistently showed up every Wednesday night.
And even if you only had 2 people.
Even if I only had 2 people. Yeah. And that's the message. Don't give up. I mean, when you know that you are passionate about something and it is your calling and you keep getting that don't give up, keep going message from above, then you keep going. And I knew I could never go back to life the way it was before. I knew that going back to the grind and getting back into the industry in whatever form that was going to take was just not a possibility any longer. And the feedback that I was getting was so positive, and the impact that using sound as medicine was making on the people around me was I mean, I kept getting all of this positive reaction that was surprising even me, until I realized that, not only is this a mission, I have a particular ease and experience and effectiveness with this.
Yeah, and I've been to a couple of your classes, and now those are full 30, 40 people, right? So I can imagine, but even with 2, it doesn't matter because your eyes are closed and you're doing your thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have that presence about you, calming. And the one question, when you're not taking your own class, when you're teaching it, do you feel, do you feel the same type of peace and ease at the end of a class? When you're teaching?
When I'm hosting a class? People ask me this a lot. They say, are you getting the benefits of this? And I say, absolutely, I'm getting the benefits of this because I'm in the midst of all of the instruments and I'm receiving all of these frequencies and I'm getting the same recalibration, but I'm not in the meditative state. So, but yes, I'm getting all of the benefits. I mean, I'm healthier and happier than I've ever been in my life because this is the most ancient form of medicine that exists. So I have my other meditative practices, and of course I go and receive in different ways, and I meditate to different frequencies and so forth as well. But even though I'm not meditating when I'm hosting classes, I'm still getting just as much benefit from it, from a physical standpoint, from from stagnations moving out of the body. I might have a big emotional release after a class, just like other people.
Yeah. And those reactions at the beginning, people that have never done sound bath, maybe never done yoga, definitely didn't do meditation. I always thought, I want to do meditation. I just can't do it. Right? Mm-hmm. What were those, you had your reaction your first time. Everyone's a little bit different, but what was that common theme you kept hearing from those individuals that came to, learn and to take in the energy?
To experience it, sure. Well, stress. Stress is number one with people. And this is something that anybody can do. And this is a very ancient form of restorative energy medicine that is starting to become a little more recognized out there. There's conversations about this. And of course, as I built my company, marketing is everything. I'm always marketing. So people would come in who have had other experiences before and they know that it's been working for them. And then I have other people come in who say, I have no idea what this is, but somebody told me I should do this. But the number one reason why people come in, at least in the beginning, was for stress relief, to be able to turn their mind off. And that's why I call sound healing meditation without having to learn how, because you don't have to have any experience with meditation in order to do this. And the result that can happen, maybe it won't happen the first time like it did for me. Some people say I couldn't turn my mind off. I was trying really hard to just, let go and release my thoughts and let the sound carry me away. But I still had these racing thoughts. And of course, that's going to happen sometimes with some people because that's become our normal. Nervous system dysregulation is it's so common with so many people because of this busy life that we lead. But most people just come in just to try it out because they have anxiety, because they can't sleep, because they have chronic pain issues. Whatever the reason is that maybe somebody referred them to me or to any sound bath class just because, this might help. There's a whole bunch of different reasons. It could be a serious chronic illness, or it just could be insomnia or stress. It could be a recent trauma or loss. But the great thing is that so many people, you can see the look on their faces have completely changed by the time they come back out of it. And I, and most commonly just, gosh, I feel like 1,000 pounds have been lifted off of me.
Yeah, full disclosure. I mean, I'm always on and always, yoga helps and cycling helps. But I mean, when I'm taking your class, the experience with you in there, and I'm just gone. You wake up, like, what happens?
Yeah, and falling asleep's very common, because there's very, very little hertz difference between the delta brainwave state, which is sleep, and alpha theta, which is the meditative state. But yeah, I mean, it's absolutely wonderful. And that's why this is such gratifying work, and to know that I'm making a difference in people's lives, and that I can actually build a career doing this and be one of those people that's out there spreading awareness about this. It's tremendous. I mean, it has changed everything about my life, and it's made me, I'm living a purpose-driven life.
Yeah. And we'll talk about how you've grown the business. But for those, because I've done some breathing classes before, right? Not just Wim Hof, breath work. And, that, I think the hard part for people in there is that there's work to do. You're doing it's not just, you can just come in and tune out and let Cary put together the hour and let me just fully decompress into whatever's going to happen that day. Mm-hmm. They're both great, but like, that's what and I've walked out of breath work, and you feel like that energy, and you've got just the chills, or you've got just this energy that's coming out of you. Okay. So but that is, I think, the why people are turned off maybe on breath work, because there is work.
Oh yeah.
That goes into it.
Yeah. All right. So 2 forms of very powerful ancient medicine, people, and it's hard for people to understand that it can be this easy, using your breath in very specific ways, being guided in breath work, just like being guided in a sound bath into meditation or heightened sensations, or, leaving the room and saying, wow, where did I go? What just happened? But yes, that's the difference between the two, is that there can be somatic release, because we have in our cellular memory, we have all of the experiences that we've always been through. Some people have been through extreme trauma. Some people have been through difficult childhoods, unstable households. Full transparency, we had a lot of that in my family growing up. So that dysregulates the nervous system going back to your earliest years, even before you're even old enough to start school. Because children are in the meditative brainwave state for the first 7 years of their lives. So within the body, we have all of those emotions that we have turned away from, or ignored, or suppressed, to put on that act, that persona that we were talking about a few minutes ago. But the body keeps score. And although you aren't outwardly showing people what you've been through and what's going on inside, because we have that role that we play every day, that everything's fine all the time. You just get out there and get it done. But there is all of this internal chaos going on. Okay, repressed emotions and chronic stress are 90% of the reason why people go to the doctor. And the traditional healthcare system and the traditional ways in which MDs have been trained don't have any background in the mind-body connection. They don't have any background in the repressed emotions and the traumas and how that translates into physical illness. So when people go to breath work, they're aware that stuff's going to come up. It also comes up during sound healing. But my goal is to give them a meditative, calming, relaxing experience. Although I don't know, from one person to the next, every single person in that room is going to have a different experience. But yeah, it's not work. It's not breath work like a breath work session. But the same trauma release is absolutely, positively possible. And I've seen it and I've heard it and I've had so much feedback about that. Like one time I had a class and I got a text from like 4 different women, like literally like 3 or 4 different people texted me and said, wow, I felt so great when I left your session, and then I cried all the way home.
Wow.
So
Powerful.
it's powerful. Yeah. It is because it is recalibrating all of the vibrations in the body, and it allows for that nervous system reset. Therefore, trapped energy in the body is going to start to move.
So you've talked about the theory behind just the mental and the presence and helping in that, but then through your research and experience, and not saying you're providing doctor's advice here, but what has been shown historically for those that have had, some chronic illness? How does it help? Because sometimes illness can be mental, it can be blocked certain things or other, but what's the mindset behind that, and where it can help somebody, not to say cure X, Y, or Z, but to help them get on a good state?
I'm going to go back to stress for a minute, because chronic stress we have 2 sides to our nervous system called sympathetic and parasympathetic. And I tell people this all the time. And, before I begin any session, I give them a little of science behind this. And when we have too much chronic stress, that is a condition called sympathetic overdrive. And that means that you're overproducing adrenaline and cortisol, and your fight or flight response cannot turn off, or it's activated too often. When that is the case, now you have inflammation increasing in the body, and the pH balance in the body is highly acidic. The cells are secreting acid into the system as a result of the chronic stress, which then causes the inflammation. Now, any doctor that knows anything about that inflammation root cause and how it relates to immune system disorders or different kinds of cancer will say that inflammation is the cause, right? So when you have too much inflammation in the body and you're highly acidic and the pH balance is off, now the immune system is distracted from doing what it is designed to do, and that is to eliminate pathogens and keep the body healthy and to destroy any invaders. Now your immune system is distracted, and it's focusing all of its energy on reducing the inflammation and the acidity, which is why when you're stressed out, you tend to get sick more often, right? So chronic stress is an underlying factor, as well as repressed emotions. And I learned this from an MD who's published several books on this, Dr. Gabor Mate, who you may have heard of before. He speaks around the world about this, and there's a lot of written information, several books that he's written that I refer people to all the time. So the repressed emotions cause a disordered immune system. That's straight from Dr. Mate. And the chronic stress and inflammation is going to keep the immune system suppressed. So these methods of breath work, and especially sound, is going to deactivate the stress response, and it's going to allow the cells to reset. So whatever the illness or disorder may be, it can be treated with specific frequencies, and that has been proven scientifically over and over and over again.
Awesome. So you've really been spending the last few years building this business, and it was boots on the ground, guerrilla marketing, Facebook, social media, connecting, building relationships with places like Mountain Shadows, with Optimize, and you've, with blood, sweat, and tears. So, any business owners listening to this, it's not easy to build a company, and to build a company into a world that most people have been either not knowledgeable on or think it's hokey pokey and just like they're just standoffish on it and shifting. But that is, a testament to you fully believing in what the power of what you bring. One of the things that you've been successful on in looking at businesses, and, not just the business owner, but in, the stakeholders and the members of the team, they're all stressed. Think about your days at high pressure jobs. So you've seen some benefit there of connecting with businesses.
Yes.
To enable this as a value add, spiritual healing.
Yes.
So what's that look like for businesses that have used your experience to help bring peace of mind and to re-energize their staff?
Well, you and I both know from experience that living in the corporate world and in these high stress careers, it takes a toll. And yes, there is still a lot of awareness that needs to be spread out there. But I found that, obviously, as I'm building my business, I'm coming into contact with all kinds of different people, and I never know what their backgrounds are or what they do for a living or anything like that when they come in the door. But they might be an HR director. They might be a president of a company like you. You want your people to be productive, and you want them to be happy, and you want to not have them taking lots of sick time or, increased amount of insurance claims, which is what the stress and the burnout is going to do. So part of the way that I've expanded my business is to network with event planners, network with business owners, and encourage them to try a different kind of activity rather than taking people out to Topgolf. We're having an employee day out and we're going to go to Topgolf, or we're going to go bowling, or we're going to play pickleball or something like that.
Race car track.
Yeah. Which in a lot of times is going to involve, going to a bar, So there is, the tide is turning, as we can see, in the way that people are approaching their health and looking for other ways to get healthy outside of the traditional mainstream methods that we grew up with. And so when I have a group come in, I had a bunch of people from Cushman and Wakefield in the studio last night. Somebody from Minnesota contacted me and said, there's a conference going on in Scottsdale, and I want to organize this for some members of our team. And I had a room full of people. Nobody had done it. That is the case most of the time with corporate groups that I have. Nobody's done it, or they've kind of heard about it before, or, I've always wanted to do this, but I haven't had the chance to. They might live in an area of the country that is like a sound bath desert.
Yeah.
They just don't, there's not the resources there like there are here. And we're so fortunate to be here. We have access to all kinds of modalities here that just are really unheard of in other places. So no matter what their beliefs are, or have they tried this before, I'll just take the group last night as an example. They're all like, oh man, I can't wait for this. We heard that this was just going to be like a chill experience, and like, I really need this, for whatever reason. They're all coming from different parts of the country, and they've all got different stuff going on in their lives, and I'm meeting them for the first time. And so I give them the science behind it. I explain a little bit about what they may or may not experience, and that we're resetting the central nervous system. And my number one goal is to drop you into the meditative state. And then afterwards, once again, even as recently as last night, a bunch of really stressed out people in the commercial real estate world walked out of there just the smiles on their faces. I got so many thanks and compliments, and maybe they'll never do it again. I don't know. Yeah. But they
made a conscious choice. Instead of being at the bar, this conference, they came and did something.
Yeah.
And for maybe at least half of them, it'll help change how they focus on things.
Yes. Just got a review the other day. My software system has a, leave Cary a review. You just got to put it out there, whatever comes in, right. It's feedback either way. But another one just came in from a group of girls that I hosted last weekend. A lot of people come in town to, have girls trips or not just golf getaways, but, they come into town because they want to shop and they want to hike and they want to spa. And so I got this great review from a woman who left me a review and said, we came into town for a girls trip, and we are so grateful that we came to one of these classes, and we're all going to go and find sound baths where we live.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what you want to have happen.
That's what the hope is.
So for you, scaling your business, it's hard because there's only one of you. Yeah. What are we going to do about that?
Well, okay, so I recently hired another person, and she and I met from her visits to Shanti Sound, and she was inspired to go through sound healing training. And I'm always referring people to the academy that I graduated from. And so she went through her level 1 and 2 certifications and has really embraced it like I have. And she goes to different places around town. And so I recently had, starting in August, I'm going to have her be there every Thursday night because I want to be able to do more of these corporate events, and I want to be able to continue outreach, and I want to be available for private groups because I do have, quite a few people contact me, not just for corporate, but for, it could be bachelorette party. It could be a lot of families contact me and say, we have a loved one that just finished chemo or is going through medical treatment. There's a woman who is from the East Coast. I saw her license plate. She's from North Carolina. I'm like, did you just move here? She's like, no, we're here for medical treatment. And she is coming on a regular basis. And I don't know what she's being treated for, but she's driven all the way across the country to be here for treatment. And she is coming every week, a couple times a week. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's this EO forum retreat up in Sedona. Our last one we did, we went to a sound bath and it was slash salt. And, but, got some of the crew that was, never done that before. And we got them to do it. We've had them do some breath work before, but they, it hit home.
Yeah.
So there's a huge market.
It's something that anybody can do. Not everybody can do yoga. Not everybody wants to do breath work. But this is a way that you can do a group event, whether it's for a company outing or for part of a busy conference, that is easy and can reset your brain. It enhances clarity and focus and decision making. And you may have seen, I don't know if you saw this or not, but I had the Arizona Commercial Real Estate Women had a networking event a couple weeks ago. And the feedback from my contact who helped to organize the event was, we can show up more mindfully and more present for each other when we take care of our health and engage in practices like this. So you're not only doing great things for yourself, but like me and like my life has shifted, I am now showing up completely differently as a person.
Yeah, the domino effect.
Yeah, for my family and my friends. And I am not the hyper emotional reactive person that I was a few years ago. I think, act, and respond to everything differently. So I do tell my friends, and when I engage in conversations like this, I say I am the healthiest, happiest, most healed version of myself than I've ever been, which is going to be an ongoing process. But that's the mission. I mean, keep spreading the word about it and keep people exploring this and trying this, and hopefully incorporating it into their wellness practices, because there's nothing easier and cheaper.
Yeah, because think about therapy, how expensive it is, the time, and most of the time it doesn't work. And a lot of times, you find the wrong therapist and you're just digging up old stuff. So you did your own treatment. And if in worst case, somebody spends an hour not doom scrolling on their phone. Mm-hmm. It's worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have several clients who say, my therapist recommended that I come in here in between appointments. And it absolutely is powerful. I have had people tell me that they said that afterwards, now I don't know much about EMDR, but it is a technique that a therapist has to be trained in, and it is for trauma release, and it's part of a therapy, a talk therapy protocol, and it's expensive. And I've had probably, I'd say 4 or 5 people over the course of the last few years share with me afterwards that they feel like they have just come out of an EMDR session.
Powerful.
It's they're very emotional about it. They're like, I did not know that could do the same thing. And so I wonder, what are the people that walk out and, are just like very, very quiet, because I only talk to a hand. Not everybody talks to me about their experiences afterwards. I might have 25 people in the room, and then they all just go on their way, and
they're dealing with their own emotions, how they're dealing, and some of them are just zoned out. And most of the time they're walking out, I'm sure, great, just not knowing how to deal with the emotion, because it is like you're back to reality. And how do you ease back into reality is I think the key, and being able to harness it.
Yeah. Well, now you can start to look at your reality differently. You know how that saying goes that once you start looking at something differently, what you're looking at starts to change. Yeah. So and that's a transformation that can take place.
So as we wind down the next 3 to 5 years, what do you see?
Oh, well, I mean, what I intend from myself is to be known on a more national level, to be a person that can engage in more conversations like this, and have a more public platform to tell the world that this really does work, and it really can be that easy to heal yourself. And we've been taught that healing is painful, scary, and expensive and unknown. And it isn't. It isn't. This is all about learning different ways of doing things than the ways that you were taught to believe. So I definitely want to expand Shanti. People have asked me, do you want multiple locations in the Valley? I don't ever want this to stop being fun. Yeah. I don't ever want this to stop being meaningful. I still want to be accessible to people. But like, for example, on the East Coast where I grew up, there's very little resources for this. This is a brand new conversation that's happening.
And you're going back there.
So I go back there now and then. And in November, I actually have been hired by a women's club. One of their activities director came to one of my classes at the end of last year, and she said, I think my members would really like this, So they are actually organizing to have me on I'm on their activity schedule. So I'll go back in November. And some of the reasons why I go back there are because my academy that I graduated from has in-person trainings all over the world and several across the United States, and they weren't having any in-person trainings in the Phoenix area when I was opening up the studio. And I said, hey, why aren't you, I contacted my mentor, my trainer, and I said, why aren't you having any classes out here? Why aren't you having any workshops? So now there are workshops at my studio a few times a year.
Love what you're doing, slowly but surely building the message, building your brand, and helping one person at a time. How can we best way to find you is where? What, Instagram, Facebook?
Oh, yeah.
Website?
Yeah, all the above. So my website is shantisound.us or shantisoundaz.com. I've got both of those URLs will take you to the same place.
And if you just type sound baths, Phoenix or Scottsdale, you're going to come up to.
I do. Yeah. I rank pretty high.
Good SEO.
Yeah. I have great SEO. Yeah. I do. And I have a very trusted, wonderful marketing partner who has helped me build this. And without her help, it wouldn't be where it is today. The studio is at the corner of Hayden and McDowell in downtown Scottsdale. And I have weekly classes, and the schedule is published on my website. I'm on Instagram, Shanti Sound US, Facebook. I have a personal and a public business profile, Shanti Sound, and on LinkedIn.
All the places. And it'll be all in the show notes. So if you're local, make sure to reach out and take a class. Just jump in and experience it yourself. If you're not in the Arizona area, you can follow what Cary's doing, and it'll set you on the path to maybe find a sound bath and a healer in your neighborhood. You're doing some awesome work. I love the fact of how sometimes it takes us years to figure out what we're put on this place to do. But being able to walk that walk, find it, and then have this chapter that you're in now, that is it's extraordinary. So a lot of people just don't find that. So congratulations. Thanks for opening up to the world of Your Wealth and Beyond, which a lot of times is about business, but a lot of it's about health and wealth. And health and wealth go together, and it's instrumental. So continue doing what you're doing, and I'll definitely be in class.
Thanks, Andrew.
You're very welcome. Stay tuned. We'll have a brand new episode of Your Wealth and Beyond later in the month. And obviously, if you found this content, which you should, beneficial, forward it on to somebody that you think could partake in some of the healing and some of the recommendations that Cary brought today. And like and follow us as well. Happy planning, everybody. We'll talk to you real soon.